Hello and welcome to Communication 200 Public Speaking, my first online speech. The purpose of my speech is to inform you about the origins of the Second Amendment, how it affects us today, and its importance. The Second Amendment has become the cornerstone of the American Constitution, which laid down the foundation of freedom for our right to bear arms. The origin of firearms itself has been pretty interesting. I mean, it's been always appealing to me how the discovery of gunpowder in China, this later excelling to gunpowder, and well, before that fireworks, and then flaming arrows, and the Europeans using it for use in primitive muskets and cannons and so on and so forth. If it wasn't for firearms during the Revolutionary War, we would not have the freedom that we have today. The firearms made it essential for the winning of the Revolutionary War and instilling the Constitution today as we know it, and the right to bear arms. Let's first take a few looks about the origination of the Second Amendment. First and foremost, the Second Amendment defines a well-regulated militia being necessary to push out security of a free state, to the right of the people to keep the right to bear arms, and that shall not be infringed. Before our freedom was won, every British subject between the ages of 15 and 50 was required to carry firearms simply because it was their duty to carry out police force, since it really didn't exist at the time, keeping a well-regulated militia, which what the Second Amendment doesn't really define or constitute what really is a well-regulated militia. It just basically like a army. The closest thing you can compare that to would be a National Guard unit or something. If a group of people wanted to get together and form their own little militia, they could, because the Second Amendment doesn't have anything about that. And then there's also other parts of the Constitution which, freedom of representation or whatnot. So there's not really that says you can't form a militia if you want to. Some of the earliest fundamentals post-Revolutionary War were deterring an undemocratic government, repelling invasion, suppressing insurrection, facilitating a natural right to self-defense, and participating in law enforcement. Now that I've gone over some of the key fundamentals of a pre- and post-revolutionary amendment, let's press on a little further. Although the importance of a well-regulated militia, and it may not be significant today as it was 200 years ago, I mean, we should still observe the right to have one in case of civil unrest were to occur, such as a riot. I could use Rodney King riots as an example. Well, it's not a good example, but I mean, that's civil unrest there. Or, let's put in another example, Columbine. If you're living in the local area, suppose you could try to be a hero and save the day, but I wouldn't recommend that. But anyway, a law-abiding citizen should observe his or her right to the entitlement of the Second Amendment, not only for home defense or self-defense as the Second Amendment defines it, but just for home security as well. If we have this entitlement to this amendment, we might as well use it to do whatever we can to keep it while it lasts. More firearms in law-abiding hands means less crime. George Washington once said, "When firearms go, all goes. We need weapons every hour." not be invaded by some undemocratic government, as the Second Amendment says it, or repel invasion. But in a sense, you could repel invasion in case a burglar were to come into your home. I suppose that's some sort of invasion because you don't want that person in your home. And repelling an undemocratic government, who knows? Maybe years from now it might happen. You never know. If we have these rights, us as Americans should observe those rights. Although I have discussed some of the history behind the Second Amendment and the reports behind it, there are also some controversies behind political standpoints. Like many other aspects of gun policy, gun control is a matter of federal and even state, local legislation. Although it's federal policy, it's still by state control, such as I am from California, so we have a lot of gun control because of the 1989 bank robbery in North Hollywood, where two heavily armed suspects took down half of LAPD because they were well equipped. Now, ever since then, other states have modeled that. Not all states, and they have some loopholes here and there, but such as California, I mean, you can't own Class 3 weapons. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a state where you can have Class 3 weapons. Class 3 is fully automatic. In California, you can only have semi. You can't have magazines that go past 10 rounds. Things like that. That's things that states can do to have gun control. Another incident, Columbine, or the Virginia Tech. I mean, it's incidents like that which have been released in the media where people have gotten a little skeptical about guns, and want to infringe a lot of control upon it. But it's small incidents like that which really shouldn't revoke our rights of the Second Amendment. Recent presidential administration has appealed to Congress to place a ban on weapons, believing to decrease the number of crime-related deaths. I mean, that may be a factor. But as we know, criminals don't purchase their weapons in gun shops as normal people as you and I do. I mean, for instance, England has a total ban on weapons for civilians, and they still have a very high crime rate. And many countries have placed all bans on weapons and still have a considerably high crime rate, such as England, as I stated previously. As you have seen, I've stated some of the controversies behind firearms within the United States, and I hope that gave a little bit of clarification. And I would like to conclude, as weapons advance throughout time, there always have been a number, one affecting the nation, the right for every freedom and law-abiding American to have the right to bear arms. The right to bear arms is as important as the freedom of speech and religion, and it's what founded our nation, what won our revolution, to be free from British rule. Although many controversies behind firearms will occur within our nation, to revoke our rights to own firearms would be an act of crime against law-abiding citizens of the United States. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my brief speech about the Second Amendment.